Noah Woods was 14 and desperate. His plan? Steal scrap metal from a junkyard, build a motorcycle with no money and no license, and ride until nobody could find him. But buried under rust and wreckage, he found something that would change everything. A machine worth $40,000, and a family he never knew he needed. This is his story. Noah Woods learned early that silence kept you safe. At 14, he'd perfected it. The art of moving through a house without making floorboards creak, of breathing shallow when someone drunk was yelling in the next room, of disappearing into himself until the storm passed. Tonight, though, he wasn't home. He was waist-deep in mud at Henderson's junkyard, pulling a rusted chain from a pile of scrap that smelled like rainwater and decay. The junkyard sat at the edge of town, forgotten by everyone except kids looking for trouble and Noah looking for parts. Last week's storm had turned half of it into a swamp. Perfect. Nobody came here anymore. That gave him time. He'd been planning this for 6 weeks. Every night after Damon passed out on the couch, beer cans scattered like evidence. Noah slipped out through the kitchen window and walked the long route here. He had a shed in the back corner, half collapsed but dry enough. Inside lay his collection. Bolts mixed with brake cables, a dented gas tank leaning against exhaust pipe sections, a skeleton of an escape plan. He didn't know much about motorcycles, but he knew how to study. The public library had 3 repair manuals, and Noah had memorized them cover to cover. He knew what he needed, a frame first, then an engine. Wheels and a fuel system would come after. The rest he'd figure out. He didn't care if it ran perfectly. It just had to run long enough. Noah wiped sweat from his forehead and kept digging. His hands were blistered, nails black with grease that wouldn't wash out no matter how long he scrubbed. Damon noticed last week, grabbed his wrist. "The hell you been doing?" Noah lied, said he'd been helping at school with the shop class. Damon didn't believe him, but he let go. For now. That was 2 days before Damon put his fist through the bedroom door. Noah had locked himself inside after Damon started shouting about bills, about how Noah's mother never should have asked him to take the kid in, about how he was a burden nobody wanted. The door didn't lock anymore. Noah knew what came next. He'd seen it before, in the first foster home, where the dad's voice got quieter right before things got violent. He wasn't waiting around to see if Damon followed the same script. He dragged the chain toward his shed, boots squelching in the mud. The moon was almost full, giving him just enough light to see by. He dropped the chain with the others and turned back toward the far end of the yard, near the collapsed fence line. That's when he saw it. At first, he thought it was just another pile of scrap. Roofing panels, rotted wood, a stack of old tires. But something caught the moonlight wrong. A curve. A line too clean to be random. Noah pushed the panels aside, wood groaning under his hands. Beneath it all, half buried in mud and decades of rust, was a motorcycle frame. But not like the others he'd seen. This one was different, elegant. The lines were deliberate, almost artistic. Even covered in grime, it looked like it had been built by someone who cared. The metal was pitted and scarred, but the structure was still intact, strong, balanced, waiting. Noah crouched down and ran his fingers along the edge. The brand was a mystery, no visible logos or markings he could recognize. Just metal and mystery. He tried to lift it. Too heavy. He'd need a lever, maybe some rope. He was planning his next move when he heard footsteps behind him. Noah spun around, heart hammering. A man stood a few feet away, older, maybe 50, with a gray beard and a leather vest over a faded t-shirt. He wasn't angry, just watching. In his hand, a flashlight. "Easy," the man said, voice low and calm. "I'm just dropping off some old batteries. Saw the light from your phone." Noah hadn't realized his phone was still on in his pocket, glowing faintly. Stupid. The man stepped closer, shining the flashlight on the frame. His expression shifted. Eyes widened. He crouched down beside Noah, silent for a long moment. Then he whispered, "Kid, do you know what you have here?" Noah shook his head. He'd stopped asking questions that made adults uncomfortable. Easier to stay quiet. The man ran his hand along the frame, almost reverent. "This is a Vincent Black Lightning. 1952, maybe 53. Only a few hundred ever made. Fastest production bike of its time. Collectors spend their whole lives looking for one of these." Noah stared at him. It's just a frame. The man's expression turned serious. This is something else entirely. He stood up, offered his hand. Name's Christian. I'm a mechanic. Ride with a club called Black Forge. And you just found something most people only see in museums. Noah didn't take his hand. Not yet. What do you want? Christian smiled, tired but kind. To help, if you'll let me. Noah looked back at the frame, half buried and forgotten. It looked out of place here, elegant among the rust. Noah understood that feeling. He met Christian's eyes. I'm trying to build a bike. To leave. Christian nodded slowly. Then let's build it right. The Black Forge Riders Clubhouse didn't look like much from the outside. A concrete box with peeling paint, 2 garage bays, and a hand-painted sign that had faded so badly you could barely read the name. But inside, it smelled like coffee, engine oil, and something that felt like warmth after years in the cold. Christian led him through the side door just after dawn. Noah carried nothing but the clothes on his back and a backpack with 2 stolen wrenches. He hadn't slept, hadn't gone back to Damon's house. He texted a lie about staying at a friend's place. Damon wouldn't check. Jude, Christian called out. Got a minute? A man looked up from a workbench in the corner. Tall, broad-shouldered, with graying temples and hands that looked like they'd rebuilt 1,000 engines. Jude wiped grease off his palms and walked over, eyes sharp. This the kid? Jude asked. Christian nodded. This is Noah. Found a Vincent Black Lightning in Henderson's scrapyard. Wants to restore it. Jude crossed his arms, studying Noah like he was deciding whether the kid was worth the trouble. You know how to work? I learn fast, Noah said. That's not what I asked. Noah met his gaze. I know how to follow instructions. I don't quit. Jude's expression didn't change, but something softened behind his eyes. Christian says you're trying to run. That true? Noah hesitated. Lying felt wrong here. Yeah. From what? Someone who doesn't want me around. Jude nodded slowly. You can work here, under supervision. You pull your weight, you eat with us, you sleep in the back room until we figure something out. But if you steal, if you lie, if you bring trouble through that door, you're gone. Clear? Clear. Jude stuck out his hand. Noah shook it. Firm. Final. All right, Jude said. Let's see this miracle bike. They pulled the Vincent frame out of the junkyard that afternoon with a flatbed truck Jeffrey borrowed from a buddy. Jeffrey was younger than the others, still in his prime, with a sharp mind for logistics and a mouth that never stopped running. He talked the whole ride back about rare parts, auction prices, and some guy in Nevada who'd pay 6 figures for the right machine. Shut up, Jeff, Victoria said from the passenger seat. She was the only woman in the core crew, lean, tattooed, with a shaved head and eyes that missed nothing. She handled the books, kept the clubhouse running, and didn't tolerate nonsense. You're gonna scare the kid. I'm not scared, Noah said quietly from the back. Victoria glanced at him in the mirror. Good. You shouldn't be. We don't bite. Jeffrey grinned. Speak for yourself. Back at the clubhouse, they laid the frame on a workbench under bright overhead lights. Up close, the damage was worse than Noah expected. Rust had eaten through sections of the tubing. The welds were cracked. The suspension mounts were seized solid. This is going to take months, Christian said, running his fingers along a fracture line. Maybe longer. We've got time, Jude said. Then he looked at Noah. You ready to work? Noah nodded. Good. Step 1. Strip it down. Every bolt, every bracket. We need to see what's salvageable and what's scrap. Noah lived in that garage through the following weeks. He learned how to use a wire brush without tearing up his knuckles, how to soak rusted bolts in penetrating oil overnight, how to read the grain of metal to know where it would crack under pressure. Robert, the quiet one with medic training and hands steadier than a surgeon's, taught him how carburetors worked, the science of air and fuel, how timing was everything. Engine's just a heartbeat, Robert said one afternoon, holding up a disassembled carburetor. You get the rhythm wrong, the whole thing dies. Noah rebuilt that carburetor again and again, before Robert nodded approval. Victoria showed him how to organize parts, labeled bins, inventory sheets, photographs of every step so they wouldn't forget the order during reassembly. Chaos kills projects, she said. Respect the process. Jeffrey tracked down impossible components. A original Vincent transmission gear from a collector in Oregon. Brake drums from a guy in Wales who owed him a favor. Cables, gaskets, bearings, pieces of a puzzle scattered across continents. The Vincent transformed under their hands. The frame went out for sandblasting, came back raw and clean. They welded the cracks, reinforced weak points, painted it in the original black. The engine block arrived in pieces. Christian and Noah rebuilt it together over several long nights, torquing bolts to exact specifications, checking tolerances with calipers. Noah stopped flinching when someone walked up behind him. He started eating breakfast with the crew, eggs and toast that Victoria made every morning. He laughed when Jeffrey told a terrible joke about a priest and a carburetor. He fell asleep in the back room to the sound of wrenches turning and classic rock on the radio. One night, Jude found him sketching in a notebook drawings of engine layouts, custom exhaust designs, ideas he didn't have words for yet. "You've got an eye for this," Jude said. Noah shrugged. "Just trying to understand it." Jude sat down across from him. "You don't have to run anymore, you know? You've got a place here." Noah looked up, unsure how to respond. Nobody had ever said that before. "Finish the bike," Jude continued. "But know that the bike's not the only thing we're building here." Noah nodded, throat tight. Outside, the Vincent sat on its stand, chrome gleaming under the shop lights. Almost ready. Noah felt the same way. Lena arrived midweek with a laptop bag and questions nobody had thought to ask yet. She carried the weathered look of someone who'd seen plenty, lean and weathered, with a presence that made people listen when she spoke. Former investigative journalist, now writing with Black Forge and doing freelance work that paid just enough. She'd heard about the Vincent from Jeffrey, who couldn't keep a secret if his life depended on it. "Let me see the frame," she said, setting her laptop on the workbench. Christian pointed to the bike, now nearly complete. Engine installed, wheels mounted, fuel tank fitted. They were days away from the first test run. Lena circled it slowly, pulling out her phone to photograph the VIN stamped into the neck, the serial numbers on the engine case, the manufacturer marks most people wouldn't notice. She crouched down, snapped close-ups, then straightened and opened her laptop. "Give me an hour," she said. Noah watched her work from across the garage. He was helping Robert bleed the brake lines. Tedious, precise work that required patience. But his attention kept drifting to Lena, who typed fast and frowned at her screen like she was reading something that didn't add up. "She always like this?" Noah asked. Robert nodded. "Lena doesn't do anything halfway. If there's a story, she'll find it." Less than an hour later, Lena closed the laptop and called everyone over. The crew gathered around the workbench, Jude and Christian flanking Lena, Victoria leaning against the wall, Jeffrey and Robert closing in from behind. Noah hung back, uncertain if he belonged in this conversation. "Sit down, kid," Jude said, nodding to a stool. "This involves you." Lena pulled up a document on her screen. The VIN traces back to a bike manufactured in 1952, sold new to a collector in Connecticut named Howard Brennan. He kept it for 30 years, barely rode it. In 1983, it was stolen from his estate during a burglary. Brennan died shortly after. No heirs. The bike was never recovered. "So it's still stolen?" Jeffrey asked. "Technically, no. After Brennan's death, the estate was liquidated. No family claimed the bike because nobody knew where it was. It changed hands at least 3 times through under-the-table sales. We're talking cash deals, no paperwork. Then it vanished." Christian leaned forward. "Where'd it go?" "Best I can tell, it ended up with a private collector in Pennsylvania in the late 90s. Guy named Merrick. He had a barn full of vintage bikes. Place burned down years later. Most of the collection was destroyed. Insurance paid out on some pieces, but the Vincent wasn't on any official inventory. It was off the books." "So how'd it end up in Henderson's junkyard?" Victoria asked. Lena shrugged. "Probably sold for scrap after the fire. Someone didn't know what they had or didn't care. It sat there for decades. They didn't know what to say." "What does that mean legally?" Jude asked. Lena didn't hesitate. "The bike is legally abandoned property. No active claim. Under salvage law, it belongs to whoever recovered and restored it." She paused. "It belongs to Noah." Noah's stomach dropped. "What? You found it?" You brought it here. You worked on it. Lena's voice was steady, factual. It's yours. Jeffrey let out a low whistle. Kid, do you have any idea what this thing is worth? Noah shook his head. A fully restored Vincent Black Lightning in this condition? Jeffrey pulled up an auction site on his phone, scrolled through listings. Restored bikes like this sell for tens of thousands. This one could push 40, maybe more. Noah's breath caught. 40,000. The number felt impossible. He'd never seen that much money in his life. Never imagined holding it. We need to sell it, Jude said quietly. The room went still. Jude looked around at his crew. We're drowning in back rent. We've got legal fees from that zoning dispute still hanging over us. Jeffrey's been covering parts out of pocket. We're drowning. He turned to Noah. I won't lie to you. This bike could save us. Noah's chest tightened. He looked at the Vincent. Polished, powerful, beautiful. They'd built it together. Every bolt, every adjustment. It wasn't just his. It belonged to all of them. Okay, Noah said. The word came easier than he expected. Maybe because for once he wasn't losing something. He was choosing to share it. Jude studied him. You're sure? Yeah, sell it. Noah's voice was stronger now. But if we're selling it, we split it. I found it helped fix it. Right? Christian smiled. Victoria looked impressed. Jeffrey nodded slowly. Jude stood up, walked over, and put a hand on Noah's shoulder. Damn right. Lena spent the next week reaching out to collectors, private buyers, auction houses. She put together a document. The bike's history, the restoration process, photographs of every stage. She wrote about Noah, not his whole story, but enough. A kid with nothing who found something priceless and chose to share it. The offers started coming in. 40,000 from a museum in California. 45 from a private collector in Texas. Then, on Friday afternoon, an email from a man in Virginia. No name, just initials. His message was short. I'll pay 50,000, but I want to meet the boy first. I want to hear the story from him. Jude read it aloud in the garage. Everyone looked at Noah. What do you think? Jude asked. Noah stared at the Vincent, gleaming under the lights. He thought about Damon, about running, about the junkyard and the nights he'd worked alone, believing nobody cared whether he disappeared. Set up the meeting, Noah said. Let's finish this right. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday at noon, but on Thursday night Damon showed up. Noah was in the garage with Christian, adjusting the Vincent's idle speed, when he heard the voice outside loud, slurred, ugly. I know he's in there. Noah, get out here. Christian's jaw tightened. Stay inside. But Noah was already moving toward the door. He'd spent 2 months learning not to run. He wasn't starting again now. Damon stood in the parking lot, swaying slightly, reeking of cheap bourbon. His eyes were bloodshot, face flushed with anger. Behind him, the clubhouse door opened. Jude stepped out, arms crossed. Victoria appeared at the side entrance. Jeffrey moved to block the driveway. You need to leave, Jude said, voice level but hard. Damon ignored him, jabbing a finger at Noah. You think you can just disappear? Live with these people? Play mechanic? Pretend you're something you're not? I'm not going back, Noah said quietly. Like hell you're not. You're 14. You're under my care. That means you live where I say, do what I say. Damon's eyes shifted to the garage, to the Vincent visible through the open bay door. And that bike? Anything you found while living under my roof belongs to me. Christian stepped forward. That's not how the law works. Damon sneered. I don't need a legal lesson from some biker trash. The kid's my responsibility. I've been feeding him, housing him. He owes me. His voice rose. That bike is worth money. My money. And I'm taking it. He started toward the garage. Jude moved to intercept, but Noah spoke first. You never fed me. Damon stopped. Noah's voice was steady, cold. I bought my own food with the $20 Mom left me. You drank the rest. You never asked if I ate. Never checked if I had clothes that fit. You didn't take care of me. You just didn't kick me out. Watch your mouth. You broke my bedroom door because I locked it. You told me I was a burden. You said Mom made a mistake asking you to take me. Noah stepped closer, fists clenched but voice calm. You never wanted me, so you don't get to own what I built. Damon's face went dark. He lunged forward. Christian caught his arm. Jeffrey grabbed the other. Damon thrashed, shouting obscenities, but they held him firm. Let go of me. I'll call the cops. I'll report him as a runaway. Go ahead, a voice said from behind them. Lena stood near her motorcycle, holding a manila folder. She walked over calmly, opened it, and pulled out a stack of papers. I pulled Noah's case file from social services this morning, she said, her tone clinical, detached. Took some calls, but I got access. Want to know what I found? Damon stopped struggling. You never filed for legal guardianship. Noah's mother listed you as temporary emergency care in her will, but you were supposed to formalize it. You never did. You didn't. That was years ago. Lena held up a highlighted document. According to the state, you have no legal custody, no parental rights. You're just a man who let a kid sleep in his house. Damon's face went pale. So here's what happens next, Lena continued. You leave, right now. And if you come back, if you contact Noah, if you try to claim anything that belongs to him, I make a call. Social Services investigates why a 14-year-old was living in your home without proper documentation. They ask questions about neglect, about the drinking, about the door you broke. She stepped closer. How do you think that goes for you? Damon's mouth opened, closed. He looked at Noah, then at the bikers surrounding him, then back at Lena. This isn't over, he muttered. Yeah, Jude said quietly. It is. Christian and Jeffrey released him. Damon stumbled backward, tried to salvage some dignity, then turned and walked to his truck. He didn't look back. The engine started. Headlights swept across the lot. Then he was gone. Saturday arrived with blue skies and nervous energy. The buyer arrived in a black SUV, stepping out in jeans and a tailored jacket. He had silver hair and the confident ease of someone successful, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. His name was Martin. He walked around the Vincent slowly, appreciating every detail. Then he turned to Noah. Tell me about it. Noah told him. About the junkyard. The frame buried under scrap. The weeks of work, the people who helped, what it meant to build something when you had nothing. Martin's eyes never left Noah's face. He wasn't just listening to words, he was measuring the weight they carried. When Noah finished, he nodded. I'm offering $50,000. But not just for the bike. He looked at Jude. I heard what happened. With the uncle. I want to make sure Noah's safe. That he has what he needs. Jude started to respond, but Martin raised a hand. $52,000. Final offer. On one condition. The club uses what they need to stay afloat and Noah gets the rest. In a trust, if that's smarter. But it's his. Noah looked at Jude. Take what you need first. Pay the rent. Clear the debts. Kid, this place gave me everything, Noah said. Start there. Jude's jaw tightened, eyes wet. He put a hand on Noah's shoulder. You're not paying us back. You're building with us. Martin smiled. Then we have a deal. In the days that followed, the clubhouse was different. The rent was paid. The legal fees cleared. Jeffrey stopped covering parts from his own account. There was breathing room, finally. Noah's share sat in an account Lena helped him open. Enough for a future he was still learning to imagine. But the best part wasn't the money. It was the corner of the garage they'd cleared out. A workbench with his name on a piece of tape. A new frame on a stand, smaller, custom, his tools in a cabinet with a lock only he had the key to. Christian handed him a sketchbook. Start drawing. We'll build it when you're ready. Noah opened it to the first blank page. Outside, the sun set over the Black Forge Riders Clubhouse. Engines hummed. Laughter echoed. Inside, a 14-year-old boy sat surrounded by people who chose him, sketching a motorcycle he'd ride someday. He wasn't running anymore. Noah didn't just restore a motorcycle. He restored his belief that people can be worth trusting. That sometimes the most valuable things aren't what you find, they're who finds you. Would you have trusted the Black Forge? Let us know in the comments. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Embrace the Journey for more stories that remind us why hope is worth holding on to. See you in our next video.